one of the most powerful things a woman can do is actually to serve her man in a way that sharpens him.
Välkommen till Evolution Podcast. På äventyret att skapa en total evolution av individer och kultur. Där du och jag, som medvetna och trygga män, står i service till en värld där gemenskap, nyfikenhet, skaparkraft och visdom frodas. Genom modiga möten med våra gäster bjuder vi in dig att engagera dig till att bygga en kultur av ansvarstagande, trygghet och medvetenhet. Om inte nu, när? Om inte du, vem? Välkommen till Evolution Podcast. Today I am nervous and excited to speak to our guest. I just listened into a previous podcast conversation we had about 3 years ago, and then our guest shared about long orgasms for men. And 3 years ago, my experience from our guest Nic is that he was a man in the journey of becoming, had done a big inner work, but he was also a man in the stage of becoming, in opposite of being, I would say. That I think we can be like, I'm becoming who I'm supposed to be, and my sense of Nic now is way more landed and grounded in the beingness. So Nic is a men's guide. I think it's more, again, the embodiment that I sense from Nic is the being of humanness, and from that space of humanness, being and guiding through awareness and wisdom into being, into connection, into beauty, into relationship with earth, with people, with the mystery. So thank you, Nic, for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's a unique and beautiful introduction. I'm checking in. I'm pretty tired. Just come off the back of a retreat. I'm in Austin, 7 a.m. I did 2 other podcasts yesterday. I fly to California in a couple of hours for another retreat. And I'm also excited. My woman and my baby come over on Saturday. So there's a lot going on. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So I shared about in the introduction about Nic the becoming and Nic the being. How do you see such a distinction, or what's your experience of your journey over the past, say, 3-4 years?
Yeah, no, that was very accurate. I started kind of a journey of deeper discovery in about 2014. 2015, my life fell apart, and that's when I really, I went back to rock bottom and started again. And a few years later, I kind of realized the path that my life would take, and that was kind of the start of the becoming. And now I'm very much locked in to this is it. This is what my life is. And I'm a new father. My boy's 8 months old. That is a whole new initiation in itself. And this work that I do is really much more solidified with that energetic of being a father. And if you look at it from the developmental stages of Alice and Armstrong, I'm very much still in the middle prince stage. So I'm building kingdom. I have my queen. I have my purpose. And yeah, I'm locked in. So I think when we met, it was very much, I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but it was very much still in the discovery of how to make that work.
Yeah. So in Alison Armstrong's description, there is the page that's a young boy, the really wild adventures, guy climbing trees, and then it's the kind of knight who goes into the world and goes into adventures to show his strength for the world. But it's really like he's more of a player, and then comes into the prince, and then that's the knight realizing, shit, I'm strong and capable, but I don't have anything. And then the prince starts to build a kingdom because he wants to be like other great men. And then the middle prince, as you say, is like actually on the path there. But then we're going from prince to king, and that journey is through the tunnel, as Alison describes it. And the tunnel is kind of the realization of like, I've been building my kingdom on the foundation of other men's principles and values and not my own. And that's the realization of I have everything I want. Like I have the woman, I have the kids, I have the career, I have the money, but none of that is based on my own values truly. And that's the middle age crisis, as other people say it. And then on the other part, on the end of that tunnel, is emerging as a king. And she describes the king as kind of ruthless, and I think loving, but more ruthless. Like, this is what I want. I don't want this. You like adapt to that. Like, I love you, but these are my ways and these are my rules.
Mm.
And I'm curious, like I've been thinking, I recognize myself both in the being and in the becoming, and I also see myself going back and forth. So I was way more in the being like 6 months ago, and then I was another turn, and now way more lost in some senses, and really longing in coming back to the being. But it's a deepening in the becoming, I recognize. But also my thoughts, like I go through this tunnel basically every day, and I've been doing that for the past 10 years. So there is a part of me that really hopes that I won't need to get through the tunnel when I'm 45 or 50. What are your thoughts on that? Like, because I do the shadow work.
Mm. Yeah, her description of the tunnel in the midlife crisis is something that I don't know. I kind of felt like I went through my midlife crisis when I was 33. I reached a point where I realized life is not what I wanted to be. My marriage broke down, like everything just collapsed, and I went out and on reflection, I also went back into the night because I skipped the night stage, and I got married and became an architect and did these things, and then I was living, trying to be a middle prince, realizing that there's all this adventure and fun that I hadn't yet done. But I also look at that 3.5 year period, 4 year period as my midlife crisis, because I feel pretty locked in to the man, and I am still becoming for sure. I don't for a second think I've made it or landed anywhere. Um, but there's just a deeper sense of being in who I am,
Yeah.
and I think I really love the part of the king that she describes as just a man who knows his value, and that is what is unwavering. He's lived a life of deep experience to the point where he knows exactly what he wants and he knows what he doesn't want, and he knows what works for him. And there are two versions of the king. One is the one that builds his kingdom and then waits for his queen to come once the kingdom is built, and the other one is a man that builds his kingdom with her.
Yeah.
And I've found my queen, and we are building together, and she does exactly what I do except with women. So we have a very deep understanding of the work to be together in relationship. Um, yeah, another aspect of the king of the tunnel that really kind of resonated with me is this idea of, is this the hill that I'm willing to die on? Is this enough? Is this the thing that I want to do for the rest of my life? Is this the legacy that I want to leave? And potentially that is something that I face in another 5 or 6 years. This idea that we have one purpose that lasts forever is not something that I have any kind of lost hope in. I realize that my purpose will change, when we spoke the first time, I was very much in this tantric, teaching men how to have full-bodied orgasms. Like, this is the thing. And now it's still there, but it's not as much as that. I'm deeper into creating sacred union and healing the masculine, and this is more the focus. So, and this will change again at some point. And I'm open to that, and I kind of look forward to that, just because it means that another phase of life will come. So
I'm really curious about that. Like, in the work we do, it's distinguishing between the things that are changing and that are not changing. Like, what are the aspects in my life that didn't change from when I was 3? What's the actually continuity? And I would call that the masculine principle, the things that always has been there, but also the values and the expressions. And that's more like they say, the divine abstract masculine to the embodied. Like, what are the things I like? What are the things that makes me happy? What are the things that makes me frustrated? These are like the embodied signs of who I am as a human being. But it say a lot about me. And then there are things that change. And to me, the being is the devotion to truth. And to me, this, as you say, like sacred union, as I understand, is also the devotion to truth beyond everything else. And the ruthless love in that is, truth is painful. Someone said the strength of a man is shown in how much truth he can handle without running away.
love that.
Because truth, truth is a very high value of me, but I fucking hate that value because it's painful. But there's no path worth going except that path. But and the path of being in truth, it's the recognition continuously of being wrong and being weak and being not enough. In the sense of the becoming of who I am now. My nervous system can't hold more truth right now, and then collapsing and dying in that part to be able to hold more.
We need to be willing to let everything that we know and love burn to the ground in the name of truth. And I heard John Wineland speak the other day about, somebody asked him, what is the masculine? And he said something similar to what you said, or something like, all that is the embodiment of conscious truth. And it's something almost tangible about that. I've heard it described as the embodiment of consciousness or something earlier, and it's a little bit like it's a little bit woo-woo around, like, what does that even mean? But conscious truth is this idea that we are aligned and connected, not just to what we say and the things that we do, but the way that we live. And living in alignment with the truth of who we are is something that so many men are not doing. And I was working as an architect for many years, wanting to do something else. So automatically I'm out of alignment. I'm out of integrity. I'm out of my truth. And women feel that. So many men are in this really uncomfortable position of knowing that what they're doing is not the thing they should be doing. But maybe there's, financial responsibility or even just fear of getting away from that and breaking out of that and starting again. I was having a conversation yesterday about this generation that we're in, where it's becoming more and more acceptable to change and to start again later in life than perhaps it used to be. I imagine, I was talking to a guy on the retreat that I just had. He was 31 and he had 5 kids, which for me is just, I cannot imagine having one kid at 31 based on where I was at. But this is what he wanted. 19, he got married and he just went for it. And And there's something incredibly beautiful about that. And, you know, a guy at 31 with 5 kids can't just give up life and start again because his purpose has changed. So it's leaning into what is the truth of my life and my deeper calling and my purpose, and how can I adjust and align to that in some way that allows me to get closer to it, rather than some other reason kind of ignoring it out of responsibility completely. And yeah, man, I love that. I love that quote about truth. It's very beautiful.
And to me, when you share about like getting into more alignment, to me comes to have the space, to have the presence, to have the connection enough to feel the lie that I'm living, to really feel into that love, to feel into the pain and the weight of that lie without running away. And then when I felt into that fully, then I can make a massive change, but I won't probably need to make a massive change. I can probably make a small adjustment because I'm not caught up into the drama, the emotional drama of the misalignment.
Yeah, it's also that, like, if you feel into the deeper pull of what would call more depth out of you in life, you know, very likely you do not have to quit your job and do all these things and start again. But maybe 1 hour on a Sunday, you make space to do this thing. And then it gives you a taste of that thing that you need to do to die complete, rather than just ignore it because it's such a massive undertaking of all the things that you'd have to do to let go of and to then begin. You know, maybe it's 20 minutes every night, or maybe it's an hour on the weekend, or maybe it's 1 day a week. It's some taste, because, you know, one of the deeper traits of the healthy masculine is responsibility. And this is what really separates boys from men, is the level of responsibility that we have. And there's a profound freedom in responsibility. And I think freedom is very much often an illusion that the immature masculine chases in the wrong areas. And this idea of freedom of not committing to a woman because, I get, you know, I don't want to be tied down, and I want to have as many women as I can. And man, I fucking tried that. There is no freedom in that. And it's just to be with one woman committed fully is far more freedom than you'll ever get with 1,000 women or infinite women. And the depth of which you can go with one woman is far more freeing than the surface level that you'll get with multiple. And so this is just that it's an experience, like we spoke about in the beginning, this night stage. Like, you have to go out and do that. You have to experience adventure and fun and do all the things, because this is just where we're at in life. And if you miss that stage, part of the deeper pull for you is likely going to be to return to that adventure that you never had. It's exactly where I was at when I was 33. I'm like, fuck, I can't start again. I can't give up life and start again. Like, it's, you know, I'm 33. I'm meant to have all of these things done in life, and I need to just power through it. And then, you know, fortunately for me, I didn't have mortgage and kids and all of these things that would have tied me to it. So I was able to just cut loose and run, basically, and really go into the depth of what pulled me and what called me.
I want to go deeper on the distinction of freedom. Like, I see the boyish search for freedom is, I want to be free to do what I want. Like, I want to be able to sleep with whatever woman I want, or work whatever I want, or have the time, money, freedom can be very important as well. And then the more mature would be that I choose her, I choose this work, I choose this lifestyle or this way of living, but then my freedom is how I approach each moment. Another way of saying this is how much awareness I have in this moment, how much truth I'm able to hold and facilitate and bring into this moment, into this relation. There I'm free in that way of how.
Mm.
But I'm not even thinking about the freedom of who or what, because I'm already locked in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the illusion of freedom comes when we don't understand fully what freedom is. And the masculine in us, masculine in everyone lives for freedom, and the feminine in all of us lives for love. And it's this kind of, this polarity of union where typically the woman wants love and the man feels burdened by that because he wants freedom. And the freedom we seek actually comes through the mind, and it comes through stillness, and it comes through sitting and allowing the thoughts to just kind of melt away. And that is the only freedom you can truly get, is this kind of turning your awareness to the awareness itself and dropping into consciousness. And this is where the illusion of having many women or more money or whatever it is, this is where it comes in, because if you have one woman and you're locked in and committed, having multiple other women as possibilities is not going to free your mind. If you walk down the street where every woman's a possibility, how free do you think you are in your mind? Compared to, I have a woman at home and I have my purpose, and potentially I have my kids. So you've got 3 things, 4 things, including yourself, 5 things, your connection to spirit. And you have very few things which are locked in, and there is a freedom in that commitment, just as there is a freedom and responsibility. These are the things I need to take care of. Nothing else matters.
Yeah.
And this is what comes through experience and maturing. And I very much lived a phase of my life where I couldn't commit because I was in the night stage and I was just like on this mission. And then I was early Prince and I was needing to figure out my purpose. And I could not commit to one person because I was traveling the world. I was doing my thing. And then when I met my woman, and I knew what I wanted, and I knew that she was it. And there was a part of me that needed to die to make space for the man that I needed to become. And, I don't think this is spoken about enough, but there was a grieving process that I went through to actually, I'd built for myself a very beautiful life. I was traveling the world, teaching. I was very free in many ways, but I wanted family, and I wanted a one woman that I would commit to fully. And I knew that the part of me that I had kind of become needed to die to make space for this new version. And it was an initiation. And at some point, my woman just said, claim me or lose me. This is before we were really locked in. And it was her oracle that was like, oh, that's what I want. I want a woman. I don't want a girl. I don't want somebody that I can just walk over and kind of mess around and not fully lock in with. And there was something in those words that was just like, oof, fuck yes. Yeah, I'm in. And 2.5 months later, she was pregnant. It's like, all right, let's do it.
So that's an obvious, like, impregnate. That's a way of claiming. But what does energetically? What does that claim actually mean to you? What did it mean to her to step up into that?
It's interesting in the beginning. So, I've spoken about it on some podcasts, but it was very much specifically about that. And we have a very, very beautiful and very unique story of how we met and how we came together. And I won't go into the full thing here, but basically there was some months where I was traveling and working and doing my thing, and other things were going on, and there was about 6 months of us knowing that this was going to be a thing, but it's not going to be a thing yet. And at the end of that 6 months, I was really in this preparation phase of like, fuck, this is it. And I went to the Sundance, and my prayer at the Sundance for this year was, am I ready? And show me a sign that I'm ready, and that this is the thing that I need to fucking step into. And at the end of the dance, these two women had 3 or 4 month old babies strapped to their chests, and I saw it, and instantly my body, it was just like, that's what I want. Like, that is exactly what I want, and I need to do what is necessary to make that happen. So in the very, very beginning, there was a moment she called me her man. And she's like, oh, my man's doing this. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm not your man. Like, you don't own me. And this little boy in me was like, meh, meh, meh. And it was a very interesting kind of deflection of, I don't know, I've never really gone deeper into it out loud. But it was definitely this little boy in me that didn't want to be claimed and still wanted to be free, still wanted to maintain the illusion of freedom. And months into it, talking to another man, and I think I used to call him my partner, because we're not married yet. At some point we will be, but we're not. And so I called him my partner, and I was listening to this mate that he really reflected back to me how it was sounding. And he's talking about the claiming of your woman. And he's like, imagine how it sounds. I'm making love to my partner as opposed to I'm fucking my woman. And just feel into the texture of what those are. And it was like, whoa, my woman is absolute, like, she's mine. And she's mine in this idea of how much energetically I want to just fucking ravish her and protect her and provide for her, and I want her to be my queen, and all of these things. That's, I can see how somebody would be like, it's whatever, dominating or controlling, but it's not. It's absolutely not. And I brought this to her one day, and I just kind of dropped it in, like, my woman, and she looked at me and she smiled, and I was like, yeah, yeah. When a woman, it's the feminine longs to be claimed, to enter into this union where there is no question and there is no doubt. And once she finds that, she softens because she feels safe. And once she softens, she becomes the fullest version of the essence of who she is. And this calls out more in the man. And then when it calls out more in him, he steps up. And when he steps up, it calls out more in her. And it's this incredible beauty of sacred union where our deepest essence calls out the deepest version of the other. And then it's this almost like this circular economy. And there's no, I'm not claiming her, she's not my, I'm not your man. Like, fuck, this is really boy. It was kind of like the dying of the boy that I needed. So yeah, went down a bit of a tangent on that one.
Beautiful. And I think I would say the masculine and feminine, or the man and woman, I see, initiate each other to the fullest version. I see, like, there is no. I heard a short clip from Till Swan this morning, is saying like the man in his full masculine doesn't need a woman to become that, but a woman needs a man, because the man is initiatory, takes the initiative, is the initiator, and she's the responder. But I see also, as you say, like with the oracle, with the wisdom coming through her, is really awakening him, awakening me. But then I think something that's not spoken about enough, and that might be only my need, but I doubt it. It's the beauty of the union, but also the messiness. And I think the journey of becoming a man and a woman, of getting space to be. I'm thinking about a moment from, I think, this weekend. I was really tired. I really wanted to go to bed now. And my woman wanted to do something else. And then I was kind of vague, saying that, yeah, I will go to bed now. You can come if you want. And she got hurt by that. I wasn't true. I was tired. So I wasn't connected to truth enough because I was too tired, right? That's the story. But anyway, she was upset, and it was a very beautiful moment. And she kind of shared that what she longed for was to me to say that, of course, come to bed now. I want you there. And when I heard her say that, that was such a relief, because that's what I want to say. I knew, like, the moment she said, like, yeah, that voice was there, but I didn't even have the capacity. I was too tired, but it was also not only tired, it was awareness that there was space for that truth. Because there was a fear in me saying that if I would speak that out, like, I don't want to go into a big thing tonight. So if I speak that out, and this claiming awakens something in her, I just want to go to bed.
So what was the deeper truth?
Like, the deeper truth was that I wanted her close. I wanted to be connected to her. Yeah.
So, my love, come to bed with me. I need you to hold me, and I want to sleep now with you.
Yeah, and that's what I felt when she said it. That was the relief. That, like, I realized, okay, I could speak that out, but I also say I needed her to guide me into the awareness of that possibility. And I think that's the part that is rarely spoken about. When I go to deeper conversations with men that are in these committed relationships that really want to go deep, I hear it all the time, that the woman really helps us to be who we know that we are, but we don't have the frame of mind, or frame of being, or frame of spirit to realize. So, like, I can say I'm powerful and I don't need her, but that's not true. Like, I really do, because I don't know the capacity that I have to be as a man in relationship to her if she doesn't help me realize that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to come to her like with the energy of like neediness, but like to own it, that you help me become.
No, I think that's a really beautiful example of the oracle. Is women experience so much and say very little because they fear disconnection, or they fear abuse, or they fear all of these things that men have perpetrated on them forever. And one of the most powerful things a woman can do is actually to serve her man in a way that sharpens him. So, you can come to bed if you want. It's like, oof, that stings. Oh, what do you mean? It's like, I want you to claim me. I want you to fucking lead me to bed. Not with the idea that something needs to come of it, but I want you to fucking speak your truth to me. And you receiving that, it's like, oh, fuck yeah, I love that. Just as my woman said, claim me or lose me. Like, oof, I love that. And that was different to any other woman I'd ever been with. And, you know, the fierceness of the feminine is fucking beautiful when it is alchemized through her heart, and it allows us to experience the truth of where she's at. And this is her gift to the world, expressing the expression of her deepest truth in every moment. And unfortunately, too many women have been told they're too much too often, that they shut down and they don't. So men miss out.
And I see them. There's a beautiful word or phrase called shame resilience.
Mm.
And I see that's one of the most important capacities I can develop as a man in relationship to a woman. That without that, whenever she comes with truth, I go into shame and collapse. But if I can be safe, calm enough, then she can give any truth. And it's like, okay, I don't take it personally. It washes to me and through me, and that actually awakens, inspires, touches. Like it's important. It could you know, it could be a shield, but it actually comes to and through me. I can feel it, but I don't collapse in it and can raise in it. What do you see there? What issues between in this sacred union are we men? How are we fucking up, and how can we really be there?
I think there's I think one of the issues that men have. So I'll go back a step. I mentioned that women have this core wound of being seen as too much. Men have this core wound of I'm not enough. So we need to perform because we need to prove to others that we are enough, rather than just kind of shifting this belief that we learned at childhood. So society pushes men to perform. We have to do better and do more and fuck the best and make the most money and have the best car, and we do all these things as a way to prove to others that we're enough. And rather than kind of just, you know, recalibrating our little boy and convincing him that we're enough rather than other people. So then we become men and we're in a relationship and she says something and it cuts. And it cuts because we didn't do it right, so we're not enough. So a little boy gets upset and a little boy goes into defense mode and he tries to defend because he has to prove to her that he's enough. So he then feels like he's enough. A king doesn't defend. A king sits in the knowing of who he is. And the moment you defend, she feels unsafe because you're not listening to her. You're not feeling her. You're not hearing where she's at. So you're defending like a little boy, and all she wants is to feel seen and to feel heard. And you are just making this thing worse. Your capacity to sit in presence. You know, there's this whole thing about be the mountain, the storm. Yes, and the more present you can be, the more attuned you are to to the truth of what she's saying and to what is projection or to what is not aligned. And yeah, a lot of the time, what she says is it's probably not true. It's coming from emotion rather than logic, and it just doesn't make sense to you. That's okay, because that's how we are different. Women are the feminine are very emotional, and men are very rational, and masculine is very rational, and this is where we often tussle because her emotion doesn't make sense to us logically. But can we see it for a moment from her perspective? Can we be okay enough? But we know that it's not a personal attack, even though what she says might be hurtful. Like, just breathe through it and just be like, okay, everything that she says, everything that we say that is said when we are triggered, when our nervous system is dysregulated, is said through the filter of our wound. So if she's upset, you know, this is coming from her wounding. If I then get upset, anything I say back is going to come from my wounding. So can I be the pillar that grounds us both, that pulls us back, tethers us to earth. So through regulation and through grounding, we then can have a conversation that's actually more based or more chance of headed towards repair than rupture. And often men lose their ground. So she's saying something and he loses his ground, and she's going to, you know, keep going and get even kind of more difficult to contain. And it's not going to go anywhere. So it is through presence and through attunement that you can feel into her, feel into what she needs, go beneath the words, because often the words are they're actually not an accurate representation of the need that she has. And it's, oh, you never fucking unstack the dishwasher like you should. It's like, okay, it could be that, or it could be something that there is an unmet need that's unspoken. But if I'm like, oh, you know, I'm bad because I didn't unstack the dishwasher, then you've lost it already. So my love, I'll take care of it. You're right. I didn't unstack it and I said I would. And I'm sorry. That must hurt that I say things that I don't do, because obviously that creates distrust. I'll take care of it now and I'll have more awareness around it next time. Is there anything else? Rather than some kind of defense. Well, I couldn't do it because I was busy and blah, blah, whatever. So keeping your ground and presence, and this is the practice of presence. One, my woman is very, very powerful, insanely devoted and soft and loving and powerful and sharp. And this is a part of her that I love. And sometimes she comes through with something that is not mine to hold. But if I lose my presence, then I miss that. Or I look at it deeply and lovingly and smile and say, not like that. Come back to me. Let's sit and breathe. Or let's take 10 minutes apart and then come back. I want to have this conversation, but it needs to be a different way.
Beautiful. Well described. And I can see the enemy of the mind's the rational explanation, but like, hey, but actually I did put on the dishwasher. What do you mean? I don't understand that. Like the many kind of defensive tricks that the mind can play there to logically disconnect. So I think there are two parts there that I want to, like, as I see the journey of being, it's the journey of being in an experience of self-trust. And self-trust, like truth, and like I trust my ability, my awareness to listen in to truth, and I trust myself to have the ability to let truth guide and lead me in the moment. And when I have self-trust, I don't need to plan. I can show up. There can be an outline. I can have a program to my workshop or whatever, but I don't need the details, because the details will show up in the awareness in the moment. I can plan a date, what we're going to eat, what we're going to do, kind of, but it's the trust in myself in the moment. I know how to navigate. So self-trust. So how can we as men develop self-trust? And self-trust could be also be in opposition of self-abandonment. So what do you see? How do we, like, what are ways that we as men commonly self-abandon, and how can we develop this self-trust for firstly ourselves, and then our women, our kids, and our community?
Yeah, I love the concept that you speak to about you set the structure and then whatever happens within. And this is perfect example of masculine feminine dynamics. So we would create the structure of a retreat, and we know exactly when it begins and when it ends, and then focus in, and we'll have the structure of the Friday night. We know when we begin and when we end, and we'll plant a seed. It's like, okay, so this is our intention. And then whatever happens beyond that is, it's kind of out of our hands. It's like, okay, what does the moment call for? If we're locked in on something, on this rigid idea of this is how it needs to be, we miss the magic. And this comes down to presence and to attunement. And take that into a date. Okay, we're going to go here at this time. We're going to go to this restaurant. We're going to eat this. We're going to go from this place to this place. And it's like, have structure, but then allow that container to inspire the feminine of what is going to have, or what needs to happen in the moment. Like what serves love moment to moment. And then suddenly this idea of, okay, this is when we're going to have dinner and this is the restaurant. This could go to something wildly different. But you've created a structure, and you're attuned to what love needs in the moment. And then this creates a far more inspiring and far more beautiful experience, rather than the rigidity of this is the way it has to be because it's the way that I said it was going to be. So I think the way to self abandonment and self trust it kind of spawns from this idea of you're telling yourself you're going to do something and you don't do it, and then this happens over and over. I'm going to get up and meditate. I want to sleep. I'll get up tomorrow and I'll go to the gym. No, I'll do it tomorrow. This kind of consistent lack of integrity within yourself is what is going to cause you to lose trust in your capacity for many things. And what if it's not, I'm going to get up and go to the gym, but I'm going to get up and exercise in some way for 15 minutes. And you get up and you have the intention of going to the gym, but then you're like, you know what? I'm going to bust out 5 minutes of burpees, and I'm going to stretch, and I'm going to do 5 minutes of breath work. And you commit to that, and you commit to doing something consistently where you know that you're not going to fail. Tim Ferriss has this amazing concept of he flosses 2 teeth. Every single day he flosses 2 teeth. And people are like, what's the point? It's like, well, he's committed to flossing only 2 teeth. So you floss 2 teeth. Sometimes you're going to floss 2 and be like, oh, fuck it, I'm done. Check. I've ticked my commitment. Most of the time you're going to floss 2 teeth and be like, oh, well, I'm here now. I'll do the rest. But it's that floor commitment, that base level commitment, which is very easily achievable, which allows you to actually do the thing and then tick it off. Maybe if you have a commitment to meditate every day, maybe your base level is a minute of meditation. So you sit meditation for a minute, you get to bed, if you've forgotten or you're busy, whatever, during the day, and you get to bed and you're like, fuck, I haven't meditated today. Well, it's a minute. I can do that. Rather than, I'm going to commit to 2 hours of meditation, and then you miss one day and you're like, oh, I don't have time now. And, the more often you're going to miss that, then the commitment's gone. So really making your commitments achievable, and then the more you can commit to something, the discipline that you cultivate through that, the more you're going to learn to trust yourself.
My word is law.
Love that.
And it's a very special practice we do in one program we run it. So we know that we want to honor ourselves, we want to honor our disciplines, but actually to do the shadow work, very simple shadow work, is to do the opposite. So we have all men take a piece of paper and write, I'm a liar, and then they fill the paper. And it hurts, but it's so freeing to actually you see, to see yourself in the lies, and then to share that, and then to let some shame out of the weight of those. But then also in that moment there's an ability to recognize and kind of clear with the past, and then step up again. But then for me to be devoted to truth, it has nothing to do with truth at all. To do it's a devotion to recognizing lies, because in the recognition of lies, truth appears. So that's the main question. I can ask what is true now, but I can ask what is the lie that I take as true.
Yeah, I might do that on the plane.
And then I think another level that it's very important, especially in love relationship with a woman, that is so freeing, I think, for both men and women, is the longing for recognition of fuck ups. Like I have such a deep longing for my woman to recognize when she fucks up, and I've been so scared of being judged when I share my fuck ups. But that never happened. Like I get honored, and I honor. It's so easy to, like, we in general, I recognize we have such big compassion and empathy for others, way bigger than we have for ourselves in general. And then to actually share I fucked up, and it's so, say, integrating to be met by the love of the other that I can't hold for myself. And to lean on each other. But I hear so many women just long for a man to be truthful in that, but for many men, we believe that we need to be perfect from the wound of and the fear of not being enough.
Yeah, she doesn't want you perfect. She wants you true.
Yeah,
she wants to see that you're committed to something, and it comes back to that fear of not being enough. If I fuck up, I'll lose love. If I'm not perfect, I'll lose love. And it's something I've dealt with my entire life, and it bleeds out in so many ways. And this kind of, I was with my therapist, and I was against therapy for many, many years. Give me ayahuasca, give me breath work, give me something else, but not talk therapy, because fuck that. And, thanks to my woman, I'm in therapy, and she saw something in me, and she's like, you need to take care of this. Yeah, I am. She said, no, you need to take care of this. So I got a therapist, and the first few months I was like, this sucks. And this is not going anywhere. And I stuck with it. And my God, the gold that has come from this. It's profound. It's these wounds that I've carried for my entire life, that was constantly trying to figure out how they show up and where they came from, and why they were happening, and all these things. And it's just we worked it out. We got into the weeds of it all and figured it out, and to see how it has affected my entire life, and to have awareness of that, really profound. And one of those wounds was this idea that I'm not enough. I didn't receive praise how I needed to. I received praise when I was a child, but I also received kind of the loving and jokingly motivating comment of, you have so much potential, which, to a 10-year-old is, okay, so I'm not enough how I am. And one of these really beautiful realizations came from this. I receive a lot of praise as a man for what I do, and for the way I am in relationship, and for being a father. and I can never receive it. I could never receive it. And people would tell me things, and I'd just go, yeah, you're great also. I just deflect. Or they'd tell me things, and my nervous system would just be like, well, that's not true. If only they knew the real truth. And through therapy, I discovered that it's because my little boy never received it like that. So it can't be true. Because if they knew the truth about him, they wouldn't be saying this about me. And so now whenever anybody gives some kind of praise, I would pour it into my little boy. So it's like, oh, thanks. I'll give it to him. And after every retreat, me and the two guys that I run them with, we sit in a praise circle and we praise each other. We praise, we honor each other. And we honor each other for the way we showed up and the things we did. And I remember the last time we did it, I sat there and I was receiving this praise, and I'm just like, oh, this is uncomfortable. And but this time I sat there and received this praise, and it fucking hit. It landed. It's like, wow, they see me. They see a part of me that I was unable to see myself. And this comes through therapy, and this comes through healing this little boy in the wound that he's not enough. So, and I've spoken to quite a few people about therapy, and they're all like, no, I was off it. I'm like, trust me, if you find a good therapist, it is gold.
Yeah.
And so this woman on the podcast yesterday, she's like, yeah, a therapist is like a relationship. So you're not going to try one and go, well, that didn't work, I'm never doing that again. You got to go, well, that didn't work, I'll look for another one. Well, that's not quite right, I'll look for another one. Because once you find one, it's a gold mine.
Yeah. But I agree, and it needs to be good therapy. So like, it's not a solution for therapy in general. It's not a solution for things, just as men's work. Like, there are so many different qualities of men's work depending where we want and where we're at. But for sure,
no, it's also it's a multifaceted approach.
Yeah.
So I don't do therapy and nothing else, and I don't do men's work and nothing else. And I don't drink plant medicine and nothing else.
And I think that's important. Like the as I said, the old way of say becoming or healing or integrating, that's to like the idea of ending up somewhere. And then I see the journey of being it's the having the capacity of the ability to navigate with more complexity and realizing truth in a more rapid speed. But the realization of truth is not to get anywhere else than here, but it's the kind of the ability to digest that is faster. Like the criticism or the feedback or the rage comes through the woman or through a partner or a client or whatever, and having the ability to digest and create beauty out of that. How fast can I do that? Does it take years? Can I do it in the moment? And there is actually no better worse if I can do it in 2 years in the moment, but it's a higher level of awareness. It's a higher level of evolution to do it in the moment. But if it takes me 2 years, I can honor that as well. That's the best I can. There's no comparison. There's no it's not a competition. But I really loved the image. I want to pick up on that, the image of like allowing the honoring, the praise to be poured into the little boy. And when you share that, you made some movement like this to like, it was a movement of allowance. Last time we spoke 3 years ago, you spoke about meditating on honey, going from the groin, pelvic floor up the back, and meditating on the
Microcosmic orbit.
Microcosmic orbit, with the image of honey. And now you poured in, so there was also an image of honey I can see in front of me. And that's the openness, but then also the ability to open where openness can be, the ability to be really, really soft and gentle and vulnerable in moments of safety, in moments when you're with your brothers in your trusted brotherhood in the circle where, you know, we're here for honoring. Now I take even this shield off. You know, you can take many shields off as a facilitator on an event, but there might be also the facilitator of the warrior holding the container. That shield might be up in some aspects, in some ways anyway. But in this circle, actually, that shield can also drop. Now I'm ready to be poured into. And then when I see like when the praise comes and it's like, okay, I breathe into this because there's still a little bit there. Let's allow it through there also. But then also to have the capacity, that I think that the capacity to really let it through, it's dependent on the capacity, the awareness of when to put the shield up. But for then, when going into the airport and talking to buying the coffee, if her words are being directly poured into him, if that there is no shield put up there, that's actually not responsible, then to be the provider, then to be the protector of him in that moment, to have the flexibility of, here I put up this shield and I know when I put it up and I know how and where to take it off. When I come home to my children or to my woman, then I know how to take it off. But I choose to not live a life completely open, because then I will be so hurt or overwhelmed that I can't be open in the moments that matter. So I see those two parts, like take off and put on. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I served Cambo for many years, the frog medicine from the jungle, and in the beginning, I was very into the person's experience. And for those that don't know what it is, you basically burn a few dots on the arm, you put the medicine in, and for 30, 40 minutes, the person will get pretty violently ill and throw up and need to use the toilet and sweat and cry and shake and all these things. And it's quite a violent process, but it is insanely powerful and healing. And it's very short. So it's like you feel the depths of this discomfort, and then with 20, 30 minutes later, you actually feel better than you've often ever felt. But that process, in the very beginning, I would get drawn into the person's process and like really empathetic with where they're at and with the difficulty of where they're at. And I would carry a lot of that energy. I would really, it would take it out of me. And if I did 3 or 4 sessions in a day, then I would be zapped of energy. And at some point, I learned, I wouldn't describe it as a shield, but just this inner knowing of what is mine and what is not. And through the practice of hundreds and hundreds of times of serving this medicine, just tuning into, okay, this is mine and that is their process and that is what they're dealing with. And I can sit and hold space for a group of men and go through very, very deep process where men, embody the shame that they feel, or they tap into feelings that they've not ever truly felt before, and it's insanely cathartic and screaming and super intense. And I know what is mine and I know what is not mine. And there are moments where, I'll crack in a way that a guy's process will move me to tears. And that's okay. Like, I don't pretend like I need to be this emotional as rock as a teacher. I don't know if I would use the term shield other than almost like a filter of what is mine and what is not mine. And if somebody comes at me and we had a Systema teacher come to the retreat. Systema is this Russian martial art. is incredibly powerful, and it is based on this idea of complete and utter relaxation in every moment. So zero tension in the body. And the power that you can derive from having zero tension, and the pain that is inflicted when you tense up as opposed to when you were completely relaxed. And it seems like a really beautiful metaphor in this case of like, you can have the shield, or you can actually soften in and just and deflect what is not mine, as opposed to what is. Yeah, I think a lot of men are very armored up, and they protect themselves at all costs because they were hurt at some point, because they don't want to be seen as for the truth of who they are, because they're afraid of what others will think, and all of these masks that they wear. And I've heard it multiple times in the past couple of weeks, just the different retreats of I don't cry from men who are weeping. And it's maybe you don't cry often, but you need to, because you are holding on to a well of emotion that is unprocessed. And these guys are in their 50s, they got their shit kind of, their family, kids are grown up, and they're in these retreats just absolutely weep because they've never had the space to do so. And they've never been held in a way that they feel safe enough that, oh, what if I did allow myself to feel that?
Yeah.
And these masks of I've got to hold it all together, these can be just put down. And fuck, man, that touches you. That really, to see a grown man who has not cried in 40 years just weeping, it's like, wow.
The beauty of how the body, after 10 15 minutes, maybe even 5 of that weep, how the body structure changes, how the chest, shoulders, neck. I've seen men like going from, looks like they're dragging their heads, weight so heavy, head in hand, living like this, and then for the first time have the ability to stand up, to take in, to like, wow, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So a part of the work that I think we're doing is, one is the healing journey of like emotional journey, to step into the kind of sacred union. But then there's also another part, and that's to hold the capacity of community. I think there is work that I can do with myself. I can do it with a therapist. There is work I can only do with my woman. That can't be done in any other way. But then there is work that happens in a community, and to me, the community is not only the people who hang out with each other. That's fun to go dance and to have deep dialogue or whatever you do, go on hikes. It's the community that are dependent on each other, or interdependent. Like there is a strong bond with each other. And this can happen in businesses, in corporations. It can happen in 13 Pines with the collaborations that you're doing there. But I think it needs some special textures, special agreements, where it's not like we check in and say, hey, how's your week been? And we have a men's group sharing, and that's beautiful. There's a need to that. But the community that's really close knit, like the tribe, like the village, that everyone knows they need each other. Otherwise, it doesn't work. The community, the village, the tribe doesn't work. So how do you see that? What's the function of community? What are your thoughts about it? How can we build it, and how can we get ready for community?
Yeah, it's an ongoing process. 40 guys on the weekend came out and were in retreat, and a couple of the men were like, one guy specifically came up, he's like, I've been going on friend dates where I'll meet men specifically to try and like find a deeper connection with a man. And he's like, I cannot find that. And then I come here and there's 40 other men all looking for the same thing. And in those 5 days, you have this really profound, deeper experience of life and brotherhood and connection. And the retreat ends, and you're in the resonance of it for a couple of weeks, and the profound impact that it has on your life, and the difference it makes in relationships. And we have space online. We have an online community for men to stay connected. But inevitably, what happens is that after a few weeks, it starts to dwindle and it starts to die off. And they start to lose that resonance from the retreat, and they stop checking in with each other. And so, we have free community calls every month, and we run workshops every month, and it's part of this dilemma that men face, of this kind of being alone and not reaching out. And we had Robert Glover at our retreat, and he's the author for those. He authored the book No More Mr. Nice Guy, and amazing friend. I think he's 70 now, and he's been to a few of our retreats. And one of the things that he really tried to drive into these men was to reach out to a brother on the retreat. Like, if you're going through something, just message someone. Just like, you're not alone, and you don't have to be alone. And we are all here, and pretty much everybody there would take a message from any one of the other men at any point, and to really drive home that you don't need to do it alone, and there is men around that you can connect with and talk to. And but yeah, it's always seems to be the way that retreat really brings guys together, and then just after a little bit of time, it dissipates. And how to maintain that connection for a longer period.
I want to go deeper on that, and then first a quick way of creating agreements in like on an event or such. We have an agreement in our community, and that's to say, when you need support, few men are so evolved that they say, "Hey, brother, can you support me?" That's very, very vulnerable. I'm at a shitty place. I don't want to say that. I don't want to call you, Nick. Nick, can you be there for me? That takes a lot of awareness and maturity to admit my vulnerability.
Mm.
So we have an agreement that people in our WhatsApp group say, "I don't want to talk." Because when I need support, I don't want to talk to you because you're going to fucking make me cry. I don't want to cry. So I don't want to talk. That's true. You say you should just call me, just tell me that you need to talk if you want to talk. I don't want to talk. What is you don't? I don't want to talk. So it's easy to say that I don't want to talk, because that's true in the moment. Like, fuck off. Don't be here. Don't be in my face. Fuck off. I don't want to talk. That's true. So then the agreement is that I can say that, and whenever someone says that, people call them and say, "I heard you don't want to talk. What is it that you don't want to say?" But I think more important is to go deeper, and it's to actually facilitate community, because we can do the community in the event, and it's life transforming, and the experiences of brotherhood. And I know you're coming to Sweden soon to facilitate also in a beautiful nature venue. We can create this beautiful impact, and it is life changing. It is actually changing relationships. It's actually changing the life of men for the rest of the life. Just one event can have the capacity to do that. But I think it's also the responsibility of creating long-term community, and it's not to be a participant. I think that we as men, we need to be collaborators, we need to be partners, we need to be creators, and we need to be invested in things. Like the brotherhood is when you, with your 3 brothers in 13 Pines, you create an event together, and you bleed together, and you fight together, and you cry together of when things fuck up, and you celebrate together when in the end of the event. I think that is brotherhood. It's to be in the same football team. It's to be the warriors of the same tribe against another tribe. That's how brotherhood is created, and a community without a shared concrete mission in the world, I don't think we can achieve the capacity of community without that.
Yeah, for me, it kind of comes back to what we were talking about earlier with this structure and flexibility, and the containment, and kind of building this idea. So we have a mission, and the mission it might shift in some ways, but predominantly it is about, to liberate the hearts of all men. And what that looks like is going to change. And what that looks like has already changed. So we started, there was 4 of us, and now there's 3 of us. And this process is not a rigid, this is how it has to happen, and this is how it has to be. It's similar to a relationship. It's like, what serves love in this moment? So what serves this mission? And what needs to change so this mission can actually be kind of more of a self-fulfilling prophecy than it is. And yeah, part of that is that the people that are in it, it's not just you show up and things happen for you, it's you show up and you contribute. And this is what I found, this is the fastest way for guys to lose this resonance from the retreat that they're on. And they come to retreat, it's amazing, they have needs met that they've never had met before, and they go back home to their normal lives and nobody gives a shit. It's like they lose that contact point and that connection, and they stay in touch. They stay in touch in the WhatsApp group or online, and this is great, but eventually it starts to kind of disappear and dissipate. And we have consistent things, regular things that are happening every month, but it's up to the man himself to actually step in and contribute. And there are a couple of guys that they're constantly on it, and they're constantly messaging and sending in music and sending in questions, and it does generate some kind of life within the community. But yeah, if you're a part of a community that you don't kind of follow their ideals, or you don't align with their ideals, then it's not going to be a community that you really get much out of or aspire to contribute to. But it's definitely, maintaining a strong community is something that it's an ongoing challenge. Like, we have hundreds and hundreds of men that come to our programs and our retreats, and how do we maintain that connection with these men, where they can reach out at any time. I love that idea of, I don't want to talk. Like, what a beautiful concept, permission slip for men. Yeah, and ultimately you don't need 100 men in your community. Like, a few really, really solid men that you can reach out to at any time is so beneficial. And that's how 13 Pints started. We were in many men's groups together, and I was holding and running many of my own circles. And at some point I was like, I want to be held myself. I want men that I don't have to teach. I don't have to lead. I want to be able to sit back and come to men with my own issues. And these brothers do that. I have something in my relationship, I'll come to them. I have something with fatherhood, I'll come to them. And I trust them implicitly, and they trust me, and it's a really beautiful, brotherhood that I've created. And people see it. They come to the retreat and they're like, I want that. So
something you're touching on there is the ability to come and contribute. I see a lot of in many men's organizations there is the genius, there is the guru. I know in many men's organizations no one want to be the guru, and we know that, but there is some gurification anyway. But really to have the ability for men to really show and contribute where their true gifts are, and how can we facilitate that in the community in a sustainable long-term way. We kind of having hierarchy. There's a power in hierarchy, but not get too caught up in hierarchy. But anyway, hierarchy is also a way of putting the okay stamp not on your self-worth, but on the effectiveness of your facilitation or your guidance or your transmission of knowledge or wisdom. But to quickly organize men to have the ability to contribute and to co-create, preferably locally, with local men in physical relationship. If we can combine that, I think that's a way more effective part. But I think just the ability to contribute is essential. We need men to contribute, and the heart of men is alive in production. Like, we don't want to be in the lie that my worth is in my production, but I want to produce, I want to provide, I want to protect, and I want the people around me to be dependent on me. I want their lives to be worse off if I don't show up. I want them to cry if I don't show up, and I want them to say, hey, we love you, you can do better. It's very important.
Yeah, having a this whole lone wolf syndrome that's kind of permeated throughout society, of this idea that we need to do it alone, it's not helpful. I think the stat at this point, 1 in 7 men in America at least have no friends, and men are just going online and living there because, I don't know if it's easier, but it's kind of where they're at in life. And loneliness is, they say, the biggest killer of men.
Yeah.
And the reality is, we did this thing in the beginning of the retreat. Step into the circle if you've ever felt alone, and every single man stepped in. It's like, right. So you can imagine you're all there at home, alone, feeling alone, no one to call. And at the same time, now you can call any single one of them. So if there is that loneliness in life, then get around a group of men. And this is exactly why I want to do this retreat in Sweden. It's like, there's no more nourishing, healing thing for men than other men and nature. Yeah. And to switch off, to put down all that you're carrying just for a few days, to just be loved by the great she. Our addictions come from this need to fill a void that was left by our mothers. And it's endless. By definition, the feminine is endless and infinite and will never be able to be filled. So your addiction will never fill the void, will never scratch the itch. But to be around men, to be seen, to be heard, to be in nature, that is medicine.
I checked your event out. Let's speak to that as a rounding off here. I have one final question as well, but I've seen the venue. I see the brothers that you're co-facilitating with. It's in June in Sweden. It looks the description is beautiful, and the venue is just touching, just grounding. Just to actually be on a computer and see the images just makes my breath deeper. Can you speak a little bit more about the event, nature, brotherhood, nourishment?
Yeah, I realized this. I realized many years ago that I didn't trust men. I couldn't trust men. There was, for many, many very valid reasons, growing up, I just lost trust in men. And I realized when I was out in the desert with 60 other men that, holy shit, men are great. It's just that I was never around the right ones. And to be in nature without phones, without internet, without electricity, to be fully taken care of, and to be around men that want the best from you, that will sit and listen to whatever you have going on. It touched a part of me that I'd never felt before. And it healed me in a way I'd never been healed before. So this was 6 or 7 years ago now, and I was like, I need this in my life. I need this every year as a non-negotiable thing. I want to go deep into nature and be around a bunch of men. And I have a very dear brother in Sweden that was just like wanting to do something together. And I thought, you know what? Why don't we find a place where we can go and just be off grid with other men? And we found this place that is quite literally in the heart of Sweden. It's like 5 hours from Stockholm, deep in the forest. And another brother, they're both called David, but another brother is he lives in the north of Sweden, and is a rewilding guy, and he skins his own meat, and legend. Just one of those guys that really has knowledge that you want to be around, and we came up with it, and it just, everything about it aligned perfectly, from the dates to the location to we have a private chef who's going to cook wild game over the campfire, and I do a lot of retreats every year, and I do a lot of things, and this excites me more than anything else. And there's something in this, in the beauty of what we're creating, that is going to really impact men for their entire life.
Thank you for coming and visit Sweden and come and bless the men here. I will leave the link to the event in the show notes, as well as to your Instagram. And your Instagram is just off the charts. The depth of your carousels is just awesome. Thank you very much for your effort there. And that, I think that's a big shift in you. That's the essence I get from the conversation and from the work you've been developing the past, since I met you last time. It's I would sum it up with depth.
That's a beautiful reflection. Thank you.
So a final message to the Swedish or European men. One thing, one insight, or one guiding question to leave off with.
Think about what you resist or what you fear the most in life. And that is the gateway to the next level of your existence.
I'm really annoyed because I think some truth is going to come out of that question, and it's going to be uncomfortable.
It's meant to be. I was in the jungle. I was at a crossroads in life, and I knew that I had to follow my heart, but I didn't know what the difference between my heart and my head was. And I asked, a woman walked by, and in this very poignant moment of life, I said, how do you tell the difference between your head and your heart? And she said, you do this without blinking. She said, you do the thing that scares you the most. And it just broke me, because I knew that I needed to give up life and start again. And because of that decision, I'm here.
Thank you, Nic. Beautiful to see you.
Thank you, brother. And likewise.
Thank you for your dedication and devotion to truth. And I see that's one of the most important capacities I can develop as a man in relationship to woman, that without that, whenever she comes with truth, I go into shame and collapse. But if I can be safe, calm enough, then she can give any truth, and it's like, okay, I don't take it personally. It washes to me and through me, and that actually awakens, inspires, touches. Like, it's important. It could it could be a shield, but it actually comes to and through me. I can feel it, but I don't collapse in it, and can raise in it. What do you see there? What issues between in this sacred union are we men? How are we fucking up, and how can we really be there?
I think there's I think one of the issues that men have. So I'll go back a step. I mentioned that women have this core wound of being seen as too much. Men have this core wound of I'm not enough. So we need to perform because we need to prove to others that we are enough, rather than just kind of shifting this belief that we learned at childhood. So society pushes men to perform. We have to do better and do more and fuck the best and make the most money and have the best car, and we do all these things as a way to prove to others that we're enough. And rather than kind of just recalibrating our little boy and convincing him that we're enough rather than other people. So then we become men and we're in a relationship and she says something and it cuts. And it cuts because we didn't do it right, so we're not enough. So a little boy gets upset and a little boy goes into defense mode. And he tries to defend because he has to prove to her that he's enough. So he then feels like he's enough. A king doesn't defend. A king sits in the knowing of who he is. And the moment you defend, she feels unsafe because you're not listening to her. You're not feeling her. You're not hearing where she's at. So you're defending like a little boy, and all she wants is to feel seen and to feel heard. And you're just making this thing worse. Your capacity to sit in presence. There's this whole thing about be the mountain, the storm. Yes, and the more present you can be, the more attuned you are to the truth of what she's saying and to what is projection or to what is not aligned. And yeah, a lot of the time what she says, it's probably not true. It's coming from emotion rather than logic, and it just doesn't make sense to you. That's okay, because that's how we are different. Women are the feminine are very emotional, and men are very rational, and masculine is very rational, and this is where we often tussle because her emotion doesn't make sense to us logically. But can we see it for a moment from her perspective? Can we be okay enough that we know that it's not a personal attack, even though what she says might be hurtful? Like, just breathe through it and just be like, okay, everything that she says, everything that we say that is said when we are triggered, when our nervous system is dysregulated, is said through the filter of our wound. So if she's upset, this is coming from her wounding. If I then get upset, anything I say back is going to come from my wounding. So can I be the pillar that grounds us both, that pulls us back, tethers us to earth? So through regulation and through grounding, when we then can have a conversation that's actually more based or more chance of headed towards repair than rupture. And often men lose their ground. So she's saying something and he loses his ground, and she's going to, keep going and get even kind of more difficult to contain. And it's not going to go anywhere. So it is through presence and through attunement that you can feel into her, feel into what she needs. go beneath the words, because often the words are they're actually not an accurate representation of the need that she has. And it's, oh, you never fucking unstack the dishwasher like you should. It's like, okay, it could be that. Or it could be something that there is an unmet need that's unspoken. But if I'm like, oh, I'm bad because I didn't unstack the dishwasher, then you've lost it already. So my love, I'll take care of it. You're right. I didn't unstack it and I said I would. And I'm sorry. That must hurt that I say things that I don't do, because obviously that creates distrust. I'll take care of it now and I'll have more awareness around it next time. Is there anything else? Rather than some kind of defense. Well, I couldn't do it because I was busy and blah, blah, whatever. So keeping your ground and presence, and this is the practice of presence. One, my woman is very, very powerful, insanely devoted and soft and loving and powerful and sharp. And this is a part of her that I love. And sometimes she comes through with something that is not mine to hold. But if I lose my presence, then I miss that. Or I look at it deeply and lovingly and smile and say, not like that. Come back to me. Let's sit and breathe. Or let's take 10 minutes apart and then come back. I want to have this conversation, but it needs to be a different way.